event chart right at the start of the month, shortly on screen. But before I do, I just want to tell you about a very special opportunity. If you order your unique personal horoscope for year 2025 now, I'll give you the rest of year 2024 free, plus you'll get 30% off and also your life roadmap report. Please see the link beneath this video so you can check this out. If you know your tropical astrology really well, why not check out my draconic version? Same offer, the rest of this year free, all of 25, plus your draconic character analysis, and also 30% off. Welcome Aries to your in-depth monthly horoscope for August 2024 for the ascendant, the sun or the moon. So on the screen now, I'm showing the event chart right at the start of the month. And as ever, we need to be mindful of your ruler, but also the influences in the sign of Aries. So the big takeout is that your ruler Mars is in the sign of Gemini, which is very quick moving, can be very action orientated, brilliant for expressing our opinions with enthusiasm and passion. But also right at the start of this month, Mars is forging a fantastic link with the sun. The sun's in its home sign of Leo. Now, the position of the sun right at the start of this month is still just in decan 1. So that's where we get the double energy of the sun's sub-rulership of the sign. So it is about warmth, it is about radiance, can be about how you interact with people, but also how you're playing and enjoying life. Think about the things that would bring you a real sense of uplift, because that's all really accessible to you at the start of this month, but not least because the action and energy of Mars in the quick moving Gemini links so positively to the sun in your 5th house. So if you've got things you want to share with people you want to meet up with and have some fun, a great angle right at the start of the month. But also Venus, the planet of relating, in the sign of Leo, it's very glamorous and very much about showcasing the best of ourselves in terms of our personal appearance, and it's in the 3rd decan, which has a real flavour of your ruler of Mars. So that's a very strong position for Venus for you, and it's in a brilliant link with Chiron in your sign. So if there is something that you want to heal around a relationship, perhaps the inference here is, can you take the first step? Are you going to be the one who initiates something? Or if you're wanting to bring healing to yourself, even if you're not in a relationship, you just want to express yourself with a much sunnier vibe, that's a great aspect to have. But also in your sign is the North Node, which of course is going to move, reverse into Pisces next January. It moved into your sign in the middle of July last year. The North Node, or point of destiny in Aries, is really guiding us all to be in touch with our individuality. The total solar eclipse in your sign in the spring was very much linked, as it is, to the nodal patterns, and the North Node here has really given you a once in every 18.6 year opportunity to invest in what makes you different and unique. But there's a conflict, because in the sign of Pisces, which is your 12th house, you're being in some way inhibited, even if it's not necessarily obvious, because that's your sector of worries, retreat, potentially where we are wanting to withdraw, heal, perhaps let go of things from our past that just didn't work out for us. And you know, it's interesting, because that North Node link with the sun right at the start of this month is brilliant if you do want to go for it. But if you're still processing or discussing things that have had a big impact on you, for example, if you're working through some self-help manuals, you're having some counselling, or you're just quietly ruminating on why something didn't quite work, it may be because at the start of this month, Saturn squares up with the planet of growth and optimism, Jupiter, which creates a kind of limitation. And also we have Neptune in your 12th house, deeply psychological, very much to do with the unseen realm. that's squaring with the moon as we come into this month. So it is possible that you will encounter someone through this month, Aries, who's not terribly honest. So as much as there is that potential for healing, there is the potential to work things through, to be much more dynamic, to really demonstrate all the best of yourself, there are other energies that are less visible that you still need to be mindful of. Also, Venus in the sign of Leo is in a square with Uranus. And we know that when that happens, people can have a desire to have space. And put it its most extreme part of the spectrum, it can be about separations. So what I'd say for you is Uranus in house 2 can be about how we spend money. And because Venus in Leo has a great need to have a bit of class, to manifest ourselves in a stylish way, you could have a desire right at the start of this month to splash out, to get some new fashion items, or to give yourself some kind of makeup. Why not? But also, if you're feeling that you want to be more dynamic with resources and investigate new earning possibilities, that proverbial side hustle that everyone talks about these days, I wouldn't be too hasty. And that square between Neptune and the moon suggests you really need to make sure that any information that you're receiving, you're analysing it in a very dry way. Not least because Mercury, which rules Gemini, quick exchanges, is in the sign of Virgo, where it's brilliant for precision, but it's in its pre-retrograde shadow. And it's causing mischief with Pluto. So Pluto's in the part of your scope to do with your friendships, your long-term plan, your group activities, where there can be some big changes going on, but there could be a bit of a nitpicker in there, but a nitpicker who's not necessarily very honest. Because as this month goes on and Mercury moves forwards, goes into the retrograde from the 5th, but then retreats backwards, it comes into an opposition at the heart of this month with Neptune. And okay, it's true that Mercury inverses back into the sign of Leo, which on the face of it does have some strength, not least the Cazimi of the 19th. But I just am really letting you know that despite the fact that we have that awesome link between the Sun and your ruler at the start of this month, an amazing link between Jupiter and the Sun, which starts on the 3rd, is threaded through the new moon at the 4th, which provides a backdrop for the next month, really giving you a chance to celebrate that risk-taking part of your nature, where you really can be on the front foot and seize in the moment and being very, very bold and optimistic. Just be aware that Venus, the planet of relating, moves into a much more pragmatic location on the 5th as Mercury goes retrograde in the sign of Virgo, and Venus joining Mercury in Virgo. Also, Venus is not at its happiest here. It's known as being in its fall, so it's detrimented. So Mercury retrograde, Venus in its detriment, there could be some kind of that nitpicking that I'm referring to that you do need to be mindful of. Maybe you're the one who's going to start to analyse parts of your situation, maybe around relationships. And as much as you can give someone the benefit of the doubt at the start of this month, for sure, it's not necessarily something that you can keep giving them. And as Venus goes opposite Saturn from the 17th to the 21st, that could be another potential breakpoint, to be honest. Now, we do have on the 15th Mercury inversing back into the fire sign of Leo. And on the 19th, as I mentioned, that Cazimi, if there is something you do want to manifest that's very creative and you need to communicate the message, perhaps earlier in the month, there could have been a tendency, not saying there will be one that you follow through, of being maybe a little too self-confident or taking something for granted. Try to avoid that potential trap, because the Mercury Cazimi gives you the chance to really discriminate. Mercury's great for that. If we use its Virgoan energies well, it helps us to micromanage things in a careful way. But Mercury back in Leo can be quite attached to prideful expression of ideas. Now we have a full moon on the 19th, which also crests up a very difficult relationship between the Sun and Uranus, which really started to come into effect from the 16th, reaches through to the 22nd, but peaks on the 19th when we have the full moon. So for you, the position of the sun in 5, about play, self-expression, social world, but your individual needs. The moon in the part of your situation to do with friendships and the collective, just like Pluto. But there's disruptive Uranus there. If you see something very differently from someone else, however much your optimism has been guiding you, particularly with Mars, your ruler, in such a stunning alliance with Jupiter through the 8th to the 20th, peaking on the 14th, just be mindful that people don't always openly express how they feel. You can be much more to the point. Makes you easy to be around for me. Aries people, I've got a lot of Aries friends, and they just say, well, why are you doing that? That's daft. And you know where you stand. Not everyone can deal with that kind of stuff. And particularly at work with people that we have to forge alliances with, not necessarily because we like them, even if we do sometimes, but because that's the function of work. It's to do a role. We're not necessarily there to play and to enjoy the social world, although often that can be the case. So just be aware that the nitpicking that could go on this month, which could be basically based on something that's not true, so someone can make an assumption or make an allegation. Remember, Moon square Neptune at the start of the month is gossip central, and also they can then start to propagate a view that's based on a psychological unreality, in other words, what they'd like to believe. So the way you've got to push back this month, Aries, is to keep serving up the facts. If you keep it factual, but also bright and breezy, you're going to fend off any opposition that may come in. Now, the 22nd sees the sun move into Virgo. If you do want to get fitter, and to be honest, Mars combining with Jupiter has probably seen you earlier in the month being fitter, whether it's dancing on the dance floor to the early hours, or it is getting out and doing something that's very cardio intense, because the sign of Gemini is quick thrusting movements, or it is using your mind in a very active and energized way. What the sun moving into Virgo asks us all to do, it's not the sign of health, as is sometimes alleged. It's the sign of discrimination. It's the sign of purity. So whether it's our diet, I was reading an article the other day about supermarket fruit and veg and how many chemicals are in it that we can never wash out of our systems. Really very concerning stuff. So the precision of Virgo can be an opportunity to make a number of small but very influential changes in your life. When I used to work in management, I used to think that if you can improve your gross profit by 5%, reduce your wage cost by 5%, change the mix of the product in some ways, try to make a number of small but influential changes, 5% here, 2.5% there, all those things, whether it's exercise, whether it is nutrition, the type of food that you're cooking, could you cook from scratch rather than using convenience food that we're all tempted by, or the takeaways. A little bit of virtue in the mix will certainly go a long way with the sun in that location. Now Mercury goes direct on the 28th, but of course it doesn't necessarily resolve all its issues. We've got to wait until it gets back to the point that it went into its retrograde, which is next month. So we enter the post-retrograde shadow, but some things can start to move. And the great news, some things that have felt really stuck, but the great news is that Venus, the planet of relating, moves out of the rather stodgy sign of Virgo into the brilliant Libra, which of course it rules. And it forges a trine to Pluto for the first time in our lifetimes. When Venus and Pluto are in positive angles, they really remind us of who the people are in our lives that we can really count on. And we can feel, just, oh my word, I've been friends with this person a long time, and I'm just going to let them know how grateful I am that they're in my life. Of course, Venus can be about money, it can be about presentation, it can be about contracts in some ways. So that link with Pluto could be a shift that starts to go on, but undoubtedly it can be about romance. And there could be someone that we start to connect to through our ideas, or because they share a similar value system to us, and that could be a relationship that could really grow. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic only. So through this month, Aries, what an opportunity to be very, very dynamic in the way that you can utterly be, as long as you're very conscious of the activity going on in your 12th house. Principally, Saturn and Neptune are going to be very powerful for you this month. And, you know, it's just the reality of the situation. And if you work with that energy, but also can see the pathway forwards, or you're really investing in the things that excite you and give you a sense of delight and passion, you're really going to have an opportunity towards the end of the month to convert those ideas, those interactions, into something more lasting and more tangible, which could prove to be really, really important around one special alliance as this month draws to a close. It's been a real pleasure being with you. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. About 50% of people who watch my videos are not subscribers. Please help the channel to grow by clicking that sub button and also that bell notification symbol. And please check out that special offer below.